Hi, I'm Peter Gould. This is episode 611, and the title is Breaking Bad.
I am Pat Healy. I play Jeff, or Jeffy, in the episode.
My name is Marshall Adams. I'm the cinematographer on the odd number episodes during season 6.
I'm Tom Schnauz, the writer and director of this particular episode.
I'm Phillip Palmer. I'm the sound mixer on all of the episodes.
I do remember looking at this, that I had the entire script, but this scene was in the script, but the scene that follows it with Bryan and Aaron was not in the script.
You couldn't be trusted, Pat.
Yeah. I'm sure if I'd asked, you'd tell me, but...
No. This is a stand-in on the floor. Bob recorded his dialogue just off the set on a mat. We had him laying on the floor, and Phil, you recorded him, and then our stunt actor here, who unfortunately I forget who did it for us. He watched Bob and copied his movements.
Yeah, Bob went in there first and did it all without the mask, and then they copied it. It worked really great.
I remember seeing the outside of the RV on the stage, and it was moving because they were practicing the stunt. That was very exciting for me.
On the airbags, that was amazing to watch.
Yeah. That was a lot of work for 1 minute of screen time. I got that went by super fast. I had a lot to say about this scene, but now that we have no time, so you guys are screwed at home watching this. Sorry.
It was a hard secret to keep, let me tell you.
Oh, the Cheerio, my favorite.
This might have been my favorite thing that I ever wrote, was describing this Cheerio as a floating oat Taurus. It's in the script.
So much more fun to do these in person.
And we looked everywhere for a location to actually shoot this in, and then we ended up just giving up and saying, "Look, can we build it? Can we please build this on stage?" We had limited stage space, and it was kind of a tiny set. So luckily, we got the permission and the money to build this on stage, and Marshall had to contend with matching. We had nothing out those windows, and we kind of slid some trees into place, and Marshall was upset that day. He's like, "What the fuck is out here?
It was
nothing out
here. There was nothing to see below."
The set was not raised. Again, we had limited time and money, so we didn't raise the stage so that when Francesca exits, she could actually walk down. Like on the real location, there's a stairway down. A lot of people online love the Jackie Chan cartoon.
I did, yeah. I was going to ask
glad we
about
picked that.
I remember being on the stage. I just walked around on it, and I love the VHS drawers that you have there. I remember having those.
And two great guys here, Neil Honda and Sam Davis, as the characters Thunder and Sean, we never hear their names in the episode, but that's their character names in the script.
Leave the plunger outside the door when you're done.
But it's still clogged, dude.
So yeah, just Marshall.
I love this set now.
Look at those VHS drawers.
You can do it.
How hard was it, Marshall, lighting? We got to pause here for the jerk-off movement. Okay. How hard was it lighting the plunger underwater, Marshall?
It was a little difficult because we raised the light level so much because of the prism lens that we were using. So it was, remember, having as many lights as I could squeeze in there.
Mm-hmm. So what Marshall's saying is that the prism lens you need more light because it's a very long lens, and you need more light to get through all the layers, all the lenses in the scope to get your image. So you have to pump more light in than what you would normally need. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Yeah, like 6 times as much.
Wow. So yeah, it was a hot set. Here's Bill Oakley's appearance. We were very happy to get.
Does he get top of show for this? I want to know.
He does. This is actually some of his best work. And this in the script was written that Francesca leaves this location and returns 4 times. And in editing room, it was just like it was like, all right, I'm falling asleep. This is not working. So we cut it down to just one. She leaves and returns one more time.
We shot every bit of 4 times going around this neighborhood.
Saw a reflection of somebody in the car there, and this on the day.
But this is
that's correct.
It's on the actual aired episode. They magically digitally erase him, which is amazing. There was somebody reflected in the car. And we had our art department found this horse statue and put it here. It's not, if you visit the location in real life, there's no horse statue there.
But you put a horse statue there because you wanted
Just an identifying marker. But I mean, honestly, it probably would have worked without the horse statue. But I felt like I wanted something to focus on that told us we were coming back to a location, that Francesca was returning to a same location.
Why is this place called RS?
I think they named it after Rich Sickler.
That's right. Rich
Oh my gosh.
This,
And this is actually the same location that was used in Breaking Bad when Hank finds footage of the RV on an ATM. So in our story, that it's changed ownership and has gone downhill.
I'll say.
Nobody lives there anymore. Nobody works there anymore.
Well, Jesse was running meth through there. I mean, it couldn't have lasted too long, right?
So we did this location in a day, all day long with the great Tina Parker.
One of the details I love that you added is that she's got she's got the Eiffel Tower on her keychain.
Yeah, that was.
and we've always felt that Francesca wanted to travel, and the irony is she never seems to leave Albuquerque.
This is as far out of town as she ever gets.
Yes.
So Phil, when we shot this, I remember you putting microphones close to the road to get that passing traffic so that we could mix it in later. Am I correct in doing that?
Yeah, actually you are. We toss a microphone out frequently to get, I finally call it the trash mic on occasion, to be able to get some of the noise of the area so they can blend it in when we cut in really tightly and make things, smooth things out as they call it.
I love all the angles we did on both of these phone booths. I thought were very cool. And the shot that's about to come up where she drops the receiver was probably the biggest shot we did all day, right? Because we had all the trucks reflected in the receiver, and we had to block the whole
That's
thing
right.
with green and brown mats to try to make it look like dirt. And
There's so many
sky.
things when you watch the episode you don't realize is happening behind the scenes of trying to make these shots look good. And Marshall found so many great shots. I get the directing credit on this, but Marshall, we had 3 cameras going at once on Bob's side of the. Actually, at both locations,
Both
we had 3
sides, yeah.
cameras going. Just because we had short days, it's winter, sun's going down, the sun comes up, it goes down fast. We had to get as much as possible in a very short amount of time.
I suppose it took to carve that piece of concrete into looking like New Jersey.
Or Alfred Hitchcock in a fest. Marshall, so how different is black and white? What do you have to do that's different? Or is it just the same, you just take the color away?
No, it's definitely not the same. We're manipulating the contrast with filters, colored filters. It's like we used to do with black and white film when necessary, but mostly that's it. You don't want things to blend together, colors that you don't think would necessarily be close to each other. When they get into black and white, they become very similar sometimes. So, yeah.
It's all here.
Does it take longer sometimes to do the black and white than it does the color?
Definitely does in coloring, post-coloring.
Well,
One of the things that we noticed as we started working it is how important texture is. And so if you especially look at Bob's costume,
my mail gets
he's got all the different grays. Of course, that's all they are. But there are so many different textures on what he's wearing here. And, that helps to give it a 3-dimensionality and helps contrast.
Yeah, you'll see that with my sweaters coming up too,
Oh, yeah.
which was because this has a montage sequence in it. The costume fitting was 3 hours long because of all the different Cosby sweaters I had on.
I've got a question for you guys. What's the deal with the yellow glasses that he wears? I don't think very many people know that they're colored. Was there a choice behind that?
There was. I'm trying to remember what it was. It just seemed like right now, if I were to say it, I think it seemed like the nerdiest possible choice. And it was nice to have them not perfectly transparent. I think that was the thinking. It's hard for me to remember because that was how many years ago was it? When did we start this show?
7 years ago? 8
Yeah.
years ago? I don't know.
He wanted blue blockers. That was his.
Tigerfish Corporation, 850
He just couldn't afford the brand name.
Yeah.
Why would you do
Yeah, these are so many great angles and such a great way to play reflections.
The Goodfellas. Why would you do that?
Big Pat.
Yeah, this is the kind of scene that makes you real nervous. It's just two people talking on a phone, different locations, just getting as many angles, and that was the way it was great. You know, Marshall would say, "Take a look at this shot," or Matt would come up with something, or camera operators would line something up, and I'd say, "Oh, but that's great. I love it." I mean, I love the bullet holes in the.
Right.
You just, I don't know. Give me the lowdown.
There's nothing else.
So yeah, we added a lot of snow, but a lot of, like you saw that high and wide shot was that one was a crane shot. Coming up for the intersection, we have a drone shot coming up, but that was of the big Pats was a crane shot way up in the air, and we did some snow in the area, and then our digital artists added snow as far as the eye could see and erased the Albuquerque mountains in the background.
It's one of our digital matte paintings. It's amazing. It's kind of, we started this show, well, especially Breaking Bad, is intentionally low tech and using as few of these techniques as possible, and they've kind of crept in because the toolbox. It's once you have the toolbox, it's you want to use the tools, hopefully not overuse them. I love all the textures here.
I love what our sound department here, our mixing guys did as far as the difference between the two, Omaha and Albuquerque here with the bugs in the background and one and
the wind in the other.
Yeah.
Because it's actually, you didn't actually go to Omaha, I believe.
all in Albuquerque.
Am I right that he's in Moriarty, New Mexico?
He is, yeah.
Yes.
He is. And somebody, I remember we were shooting and somebody posted a shot of us, shot of something where we were filming and they were trying to figure out the plot. What was going on?
Good luck.
I know. Bob is so good here. I love this part when he hears that Kim's been asking him. He's like such a puppy dog, like a little kid hearing, "Oh, she asked about me? What'd she say?" Yeah, so this is basically the directing style here is the Coward's directing style. It's just, let me get as many angles as possible and let Skip try to figure out how to cut this shit together.
No.
And Skip McDonald, our editor, just, he showed me this, he put it together in such a great way. Because I was like, I got cameras outside the phone booth, inside the phone booth, looking up, looking down. I'm all over the place. And he found this is also Bob looking. Bob loved that moment where it's just an old school comedy of looking at the phone after somebody hangs up. Yeah, we were location scouting and we were looking. There was a place across the street from here that Christian showed us, and I was not that happy with it. We looked across the street and there was I forget what this place even was originally. And I was like, what about that? That place looks good. And we all walked across the highway dangerously. And they asked, you okay if we film here? And they luckily opened to it. And they...
Because it's not a restaurant.
No, it's not a restaurant. Here's our drone. So we were over filming Bob in the phone booth, and we had a drone camera crew over at this intersection getting the shots of... Now, Bob here in the car is actually on stage and with an LED screen behind him. Great lighting by Marshall to hide that fact.
Hi, I need a number in Florida.
So while we were filming this, probably this particular part of the scene, the drone was over getting in the car, driving, and we had I think they recorded it and then brought it to us and said, "Is this okay?" And then we signed off on it.
Yeah, you directed it remotely from a mile and a half away.
You put me through. I'll say again how much?
I remember a day on the Post with working with Bob, where he had this scene where he was at the payphone for a long time. They were shooting him. They were very excited. They were shooting him in the reflection of the metal there, like you guys did. But he has become, along with Robert De Niro, one of the great payphone actors. I mean it. I mean, he's
true.
That's a question I kept getting. Is this inspired by Goodfellas? Because, yeah, I guess they both in both scenes they beat the phone, but it wasn't meant to be.
This use of his dialogue being drowned out by the trucks and it just being blurred is so interesting. And I found that I watched it with two other people. And when this conversation was happening, everybody leaned forward toward the screen to see if they could hear it better.
That's the Rosemary's Baby thing, where
That's
exactly it.
You don't frame your character, and everybody's kind of looking around to see them, leaning over to see if they can peek around the corner and see what they're talking about. This was filmed. We tried to film that on location, and the light just went away, and it was too dark, so we had to recreate it on stage with a blue screen.
Oh,
which was interesting. Marshall, we're going to talk about lighting the shot.
Yeah,
cutting a bowl out, and Marshall does all this stuff on his computer of creating the set on screen on your computer and figuring out where the camera goes and what the shot's going to look like before we get there.
That's right, and they cut that big notch in the bowl for us. Excuse me.
uh-oh.
All right,
who's going to get out of that cab? There he is.
And there's the great hair with Ruth. I believe what was funny, my hair is parted on the opposite side of where it normally is, and then she gave me like a perm basically every morning. But you had said something, I think, Peter, about not trying to make it people think that it was the same actor, obviously, because I replaced another actor. There's something distinctive too about it.
You go to the box up here,
and you're seeing all these great patterns that Jem Bryant came up with that you were talking about, the textures.
Absolutely.
What a thrill to work with Cal Burnett. Oh my God. It was just
every day.
The best.
So when we shot this in reality, we didn't have any video. We didn't have this video yet, so they're just reacting to a blank screen, and this was added later.
I imagined it.
It's the three of you have such a great relationship, Pat. The way this it's a little bit of a love triangle.
Yeah.
With mom at the apex, and it's just so funny, and the deference you're giving to Gene. It just makes me feel like he's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
With the way you're treating him, he does seem a little bit scary.
There is those, there's one in this, at least one in this episode and one in the last episode of the direct references to Walter White that I was very aware of that would always kind of cow me as both a character and an actor. I think those are used as power moves.
And Carol is so wonderful. She and Bob got this back and forth going. That's just, you can't take your eyes off it.
The first time we did it, they were doing that thing where they were finishing each other's sentences in the previous episode. And I said, did you guys rehearse that at all? He goes, nope, not at all.
Answer some questions. First up.
This is a very Goodfellas thing, too, Tom. This Johnny Roast Beef. The computer was on sale. For my mother.
I love Goodfellas. And it's certainly all that stuff seeps into your writing and
unconscious.
You're thinking about how are people going to act? Of course you steal the money, you don't spend it in a way that people realize you're spending it, because otherwise you're going to get in big trouble. So all that stuff from Goodfellas seeps into your mind when you're writing.
You said cross to the other side of the street.
Bob made a off-camera Star Trek joke to me that he knew I would get here, where when we made the toast, he said, "Sweet Tranya."
And now the Tranya.
Tom does the best Tranya. They should have a Tranya off.
We should let Phil talk about this.
Yes.
Oh my
scene.
gosh.
This is when you're doing karaoke, and Bob's got an earpiece in, so none of us hear the music, only he hears it.
Yeah, it's a little weird because there's nothing heard in the room except for Bob singing with his beautiful pipes right now. Nobody hears the music playing or anything.
There's no echo. You're not feeding anything out of that microphone.
No, I'm just
Are you using the microphone at all?
No, we tried. It sounded terrible, and so we're just getting it off of his lav mic. So there's a mic underneath his sweater, and except for when we get him close, we're able to get a mic hanging over his head. But the wide shots, no. And post-production has the great duty of putting it all back together and
Adding that awesome feedback.
and adding that characteristic feedback, which always lets you know that it was a live mic. That's how we know.
And it's actually
The other thing that we've done, I don't know if we did it in this scene, but sometimes in post, because you record it so clean, it always sounds great coming from set. And sometimes we've added a little bit of little pop from being close to the mic. And we have to add it because you recorded it so cleanly
Doing too good a
that
job,
we
Phil.
have to make it sound shitty.
You gotta futz it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's all downhill from you.
Thanks.
And the microphone Bob was singing into, I believe, was the same Gould microphone that Chuck and Jimmy used in their karaoke scene.
Wow.
We did it the same way.
Wow.
We
Yeah.
did the scene the same way for the karaoke scene. Yeah.
That was and that was an episode that Tom and I wrote together.
Classic.
So
We started with a few bar tricks really early in the show, and now Tom has done the ultimate bar. This is like the bar trick encyclopedia that you wrote here. Where did you get all these bar tricks?
you just basically type in bar tricks on you. I'm like
Just like
I
cat
like Marion.
videos.
I was like, you just type in bar tricks and all these bar tricks come up.
So
It's
it's on
amazing.
Ask Jeeves? You went to Ask Jeeves?
Pretty much, yeah. And I was like, so it was great to learn this trick about snatching. It works too. You can do it at home. You can trick your friends, put your hand above theirs, and for some reason, when their reaction time cannot match. By the time you're moving, they can't move fast enough to reach that bill below their hand.
I just love the way Bob plays this, where he's just such a nebbish. He's such a nebbish.
He's such a gene.
He's such a gene. He's such a nebbish.
It's like the triple delay putting his hand down.
And then every once in a but towards the end of the scene, he gives this guy a look, and you go, "Oh God!"
And I named the character that the actor Devin Ratray plays here is named Albert Hawthorne Hill, which is the name for Benny Hill.
That's his
in
birth
this-
name. His birth name.
His birth name, yeah, is so he became Benny Hill, which is why the tapping on the head became important to me. That Benny Hill used to tap on the head of Jackie.
Jackie Wright?
Jackie Wright. Very good. Yeah, he used to tap on him. I used to watch that as a
Little
kid.
man.
And
That's
Channel 9's in Secaucus in New Jersey would play Benny Hill.
I remember Benny Hill because it was, I think the first time I saw it, women topless on broadcast television.
Oh, yeah.
They got away with it because they were British.
Yeah, Monty Python and Benny Hill.
That's right.
And a show called The Goodies.
All right.
I need some night air.
So yeah, this is all in Albuquerque. And,
This is me, by the way, even though you've never seen me. I did do all.
I felt so
That's
bad.
Yeah, I did. No. I like it. I mean,
It helped because it was incredibly cold that night.
yeah.
So in reality, when we shot the scene, Bob has a protective gel on his hands that really showed up on camera. There was like nothing you could do about it, and they had to digitally remove the shine so that it looks like just a normal hand. But for safety reasons, our stunt coordinator Al Goto is. He cares about the actor safety. Go figure. So when you're lighting a matchbook on fire on the back of his hand, he needed the protective gel, and it was just for Marshall. There was just no way to light this without having a shiny
And
hand.
15 years ago, we would have had to just live with it. It would have he would have just had a shiny hand.
Well, it's like in Breaking Bad. There's Bryan's wearing a protective glove when he's stamping out the money he sets on fire, and it's clearly, if you freeze the frame, he's suddenly wearing a protective glove.
Yeah.
There's just no way around it.
When he burns the money
When
in
he
the
burns the money
barbecue.
and he
That's right.
tries to smack it out, if you freeze the frame, it's all of a sudden.
And now we can fix that. I don't know if that means movies are better, but it definitely means we got the tools.
I mean, I've seen that scene 3 times at least, and I never noticed it. But
Oh yeah, the shit we worry about, people are going to notice that nobody ever notices.
you notice it if you've seen it 100 times because you love it so much.
I think the prop people were going to kill me because I accidentally turned the taxi sign around, and I got established that way, and it's backwards the entire rest of the episode.
Steve, he's one of the drivers.
That's right.
Yeah. He knows all of the spots, and he'll say, right over there is where the Had to Disappear picked up Walter White, and there's the Pollos Hermanos that they blew up.
that's one of the special things about working on the show is that the crew really remembers what happens in the show. They care about the characters. Yeah. And the greatest compliment you can get as a writer is to walk on set and have people obviously have read the script and they've read the next script and they're excited about it. And it's just intoxicating to realize you're working with people and everybody cares about the story.
I never worked on anything quite like it before.
I can reiterate that when the scripts come out, everybody starts reading them right away when they come out on set. And so it's exciting when people say, did you read the next one? Did you read it?
It's the greatest feeling. Now it's interesting because Francesca, the scene with Francesca, we were towing, right? We towed the car, but this scene is done a different way. This is done with, you were talking about a screen before, right, Tom?
That's right, big LED screens that Marshall would speak to more about it.
And Marshall, what's the secret of making the LED screen look real?
Shallow depth of field.
Mm-hmm. And you have other screens that basically act as interactive light reflectors that you get as close to the actors as possible. So you have, as the scene's going by in the background, you have the same lighting effect matching on their skin, so it looks very real.
I love doing it. I'd never done it before, and it just became very real after a while.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing is you really sell the driving. It makes a big difference.
It was easy because it just felt like we were going somewhere.
And we had somebody with a board basically sticking it under the taxi cab and on an apple box, just rocking giving the car life so that the Albuquerque Dangler would shake, and it just gave a little extra, realism to the scene.
And then in some of those later, they're blowing snow and water and stuff like that onto the windshield, and I'm wiping it off too.
And Marshall, when you first set it up, we had a car on the camera mounted on the hood, and you were like, "Oh, we got to get that camera off the mount because it was matching." Somehow you needed the camera independent of the car to see the movement.
Actually,
or was it the opposite?
It was the opposite way.
We didn't have it. That's right. We didn't have it attached. Then you were like, we got to make it look like a tow rig, where the camera's actually mounted to the cab, so that when we shake it, it has that same driving effect.
Yeah, people are so used to seeing them locked to the car that it starts to feel weirdly phony.
Can I just say, Pat, I just love the enthusiasm that Jeff has when he gets the tape on. He gets the tape on and he runs away. It's Jeff. I feel like Jeff. I have a lot of empathy for Jeff because he seems like somebody who is really dead inside, and this is really bringing him. This is bringing him some excitement,
some joy,
some adrenaline,
excitement.
It's like that. It's like that in the episode previous when you finally walk out of the store and you've made it out, and that smile that gets on your face, like, I have really done it.
I've accomplished something with my life now.
Yeah, it makes it more tragic, I guess. Eventually, finally he's doing something, but you must know that it's a very bad thing to be doing. But
now our actor here, Max
Bickelhaup.
Yes, he spent some time with his dog, who is not his dog.
And it's not really it's a young dog. It's like 7 months old or something. And not movie trained dog necessarily.
This is a movie dog though. We sprang for bringing a dog in from LA.
Yeah.
Which not to say that I'm sure Albuquerque dogs are wonderful, but this particular dog
insulted Albuquerque
was somewhat this one was somewhat trained. We've had many different dogs on the shows before, and I think at this point we put our foot down and said we need a trained one if we're going to use the dog this much.
I was really impressed with that dog on this set.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
True.
The driving thing.
The pain in the ass in the car.
Yeah.
Because he saw a raccoon.
Yeah, he couldn't deal with the raccoon.
There was a raccoon, and he kept wanting to go run after the raccoon. The whole crew was looking at the raccoon. We lost control that night. It's like, everybody get away from the raccoon and come shoot this goddamn scene.
That and the lazy that came to visit and tell us how much she loved having us there.
Again, another great job by our editor, Skip McDonald. Just, because we shot every moment of this scene, turning every card over, and he worked through and condensed it to what exactly do we need to see to tell the scene. And it was just like the beginning and the end of putting the cards away tells the scene. And this is a location, a big house that doubled or tripled. We used it for multiple scenes. There's a screen to the right of the couch because on the other side of that, we used it in the montage scene where Buddy comes in and picks the pocket of another guy who's passed out from the drugs.
And that exterior is the same as the interior, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes.
Same place.
That's
Cherkis
right.
Investment.
Shout out to our writer, Ann Cherkis.
Wonderful, yes, and sure.
I wouldn't invest in Cherkis Investments, I gotta say that. So,
I don't know. Alfred Hill seems to know what he's doing with his money.
that's true.
Yeah, Max did all this one night. I got a night off.
Yeah, there's a lot of... And this was the day too that, because he has no dialogue, and we had COVID safety protocols, we'd film a whole section and then realize at the end, wait a minute, he's wearing a mask.
Oh,
so we have to go back and read.
We had a real hard time pulling this without destroying the entire checkbook.
Well, this is actually one of the few pickups we needed for the scene, because when we first shot it, the checkbook, the check didn't have the bank name in it, and I didn't even notice. And Peter was like, "There's no bank name in the checkbook," so that was.
I think that might be your only pickup from this episode.
That was the only shot I did not direct.
So good crime fiction thief trick to take the last check out of the book. It was like
right.
that in George Higgins book.
And this piece coming up with the tape on the door where he leaves and almost forgets the tape. That's right out of one of the first, if not the first, Columbo episode. One of the villains
Fantastic.
does something with the phone, and he puts it back the wrong way. I wish I could remember. I should have checked this before I did the commentary. But he does something, and the camera focuses on it. You're like, oh, that's the thing that's going to get him caught. And then his hand comes back in, and he readjusts it the way it was. So we just directly from Columbo.
Is it Jack Cassidy or Patrick McGowan?
It was neither one of those.
Oh man,
You did, yes. And now here we are.
tape.
Yeah.
That one of the things that's interesting about, we had to shoot all of Bryan and Aaron's scenes really pretty much at the head of the whole
6 months.
schedule.
Right. Months ahead.
6 months before we actually shot.
April 2021.
While Vince was directing episode 2, 602, we carved out the time to do this scene, the scene that's in Vince's episode with Ray and Aaron, and then the spoiler alert, if you're listening to this before you watch the finale, you dum-dums, Bryan is also in the finale.
That's right.
And you actually shot your scene first.
I did.
With
Because I'm a nice guy.
you did your scene with Bryan, and then I did this scene. And then Vince did the scene with Aaron and Ray after that.
And Aaron's was the only scene that was done outside the studio.
That was a difficult night.
That was, yes. Phil, I wish we were doing the commentary. You were on the commentary for that, because we had to shoot in rain, and in the mix. Now we're talking about a different episode. In the mix, we were like, somebody said, "Oh, I wish we could hear the voices a little bit better." And we added all that rain, and so they stripped the rain away, and just showed us what Phil did, and it was somehow almost perfectly clean. Just clean voices. I don't know how you did it.
Okay. Cannot stress enough how great these guys were slipping back into these roles. Bryan as Walt, and it was one of those, so little direction I had to give him. It was every once in a while I'd say less Heisenberg, more Walt, and that was he'd move the needle and do it perfectly. And Bob here as classic Saul Goodman. I mean, he's so good. It's such a difference from Jimmy McGill, and of course the beautiful Aaron Paul, who can't say enough about.
It's such a strange sensation for me, because the original episode of Breaking Bad, called Better Call Saul, was in season 2. It was my third produced episode of television. And so the scene that we saw at the beginning of this episode was a scene that I shot many years ago with Bryan and Aaron and Bob in Bob's first episode. And it was Terry McDonough was the director. And we had a terrible sandstorm. And frankly, there were all these difficulties at the time. I could have never believed that, how many years, it's been over 10, 12 years later, we'd be going back to this scene and it would be shot so beautifully. But Marshall, I have to ask you, now you're trying to match, or this is potentially being cut against footage shot by another cinematographer, another wonderful cinematographer, Michael Slovis, that was shot on film, and we're shooting digitally here. What did you do differently?
It was all about the color. It was all about realizing, that and the fact I had the benefit of having Steve Latecki, who's the gaffer, who's been on the show since early on and worked with Michael, obviously, all the way through Breaking Bad, or most of it. So he actually remembered where the lights were, exactly what lights they were, in which lifts, and so we kind of matched that and matched the color. So that was the big thing to really make it feel like it slid right in.
I hadn't thought of the Steve Latecki. It was the continuity between all the different seasons of the show. Because I think this looks, I think this matches really, really well. And, we thought long and hard about actually shooting on film, and we came very close to doing it. And then in the end, we just chose to shoot with using our digital equipment. And I think I really think it was the right choice.
The set, we didn't have the set anymore; it had to be rebuilt.
That's right.
Even the costumes, those knit hats,
that's right.
They had to be specially made because they didn't exist. They didn't have them anywhere, so they had to. Jen Bryan had to commission someone to make those.
It was the person who knitted the original hats, I believe, did them again.
Wow!
Because I think the originals are. Somebody's got them.
They're in the Smithsonian.
That's maybe so.
Bought them on eBay for $8 zillion.
So yeah, I'm just real proud of the scene. I'm proud that it wasn't just fan service to get these characters back in. I mean, it really played. If you watch the finale, and you see Jimmy / Gene tell the story about these guys took me. It was for people who haven't seen Breaking Bad. Now we're filling in a piece of the puzzle so that when he does his story about all I need is to convince one juror that this is the story, I had a hood over my head and this is what happened, and he's clearly lying because he pursues Walter White here. This location didn't really exist the way you see it right now. It was all weeds, and we had our guys got in there with bulldozers and just made this look like the original.
This is incredible.
The original location, which was just fascinating.
This transition made the hair on the back of my neck.
This transition's one of the best things ever.
Amazing. And they're written in your script like that too, right, Tom?
Yeah. We and it was like I presented to Marshall. It's like, how can we do this, Marshall? And it's up to Marshall's got to figure it out. It's a lot of measuring and we using video. A switcher to put one image that we shot over another. So I think we did the grave first, and then we shot Bob on stage and kind of matched the size of him over the grave, and we were able to say, okay, this is how high we need to be for him to fit in the grave, and just film. Yeah, we filmed that on stage. And then you put these things in the script of he opens a box and you're looking up from a box, and it's a big pain in the ass to get. Poor Marshall's like, okay, we got to get a hole in the bottom of this box and get it, shoot past the swing master. And but boy, the song we have coming up, I was so happy we got to use that's a Monkey song called Tapioca Tundra, and it's not the original version. It's a demo of Mike Nesmith, who wrote the song, had recorded it to present to the producers of the Monkees and the band to say, here's my song, what do you think? And then they did a whole other version of it, but this original demo always made me real happy.
You went to go see the Monkees while we were
That's right.
right.
I made a lot of people nervous because I left Albuquerque and flew back to Los Angeles because the Monkees were playing, Nesmith and Mickey Dolenz were playing at the Greek Theater on a Sunday night, and I had to be back on Monday to shoot the Carol Burnett scenes. And if something had gone wrong with the airlines, a lot of people would have been very angry at me. But I felt like I had to see this concert, and Michael Nesmith died not that long after, and I'm glad I got to see it.
It was the last night of their tour.
That was their closing night, the last time they ever performed together, and Yeah, there's just a lot of pieces here, and kudos to everyone in the crew, but Marshall and Rich Sickler, my AD, as far as scheduling, how do we get all of these little pieces? And while we were shooting the karaoke scene, we had Matt Creedle next in a bar adjacent to the karaoke stage, shooting close-ups of bowls of nuts and glasses being slid. And this is Gus Fring's office that we just turned into.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We turned into a dingy dive.
You told me that when we were doing it. Come on. Schnauz cameo.
There we go.
Many people in our crew, we got to freeze that and point out Jake is in there, and this is another. We shot this on stage too, where
The song was playing while we shot this.
That's right, and just to give our pole dancer there the sort of the rhythm of what to dance to. So she heard the music as we were shooting this.
Bob is always so nice to all of the background people. He makes an effort to get to know them and make them feel welcome and talk to them and everything.
So Marshall,
But not just the strippers.
No.
Marshall, you can speak to this. This zoom out is a digital zoom out. We used a different camera than we normally use.
That's correct. Yeah, we used Panavision 6K camera, digital camera that's also made by Red, and gives you a lot more room to be able to digitally zoom in it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we just shot it locked off and wide, and then in post we zoomed in to Bob's face and did the zoom out.
So you could you can match what you were.
Pretty close. Yeah, it didn't quite get to exactly the size, but it was pretty close. Here's the Matt Creedle shots I was talking about. Some of this is on stage, and some of it is at the location. Anywhere where you see a background, that was the on location, and all this other stuff is very close up of tabletops.
Did a lot of inserts in the car, the water bottles and stuff like that, just in one night.
Yeah.
Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Bob left.
And you were still there.
He works hard.
Here's Kevin Sussman as Mr. Link, who we, for some reason, when we're talking about this in the writers' room, we always imagined the Jonathan Pryce character from Glengarry Glen Ross, whose name is Mr. Link in that script, so we just kept the same name.
Link.
And it's again Jennifer Bryan with such an amazing eye for detail and character. Everything's oversized on Kevin.
Yeah. I didn't notice that until I was watching this the second time.
So as a cancer patient, we just were saying that he's kind of shrinking down a little bit, and his clothes are not fitting the same way as they were.
The interesting thing for me is I didn't know that Kevin was cast in this role.
Yeah.
Because I didn't check that out on the call sheet. I just knew we had somebody. And then I didn't know until I heard his voice.
Yeah.
And I heard his voice and I said, that's Stewart from Big Bang Theory. And so.
He's such a nice guy.
So great.
Great pills.
Big pills.
This is
Bob's look here.
So many pills I took to try to keep the hair on my head. Worked like a charm. What are those for?
Cancer.
I can't remember how in the writers' room we came up with this, that the character has cancer, and it kind of just linked into the Walter White of it so well.
I think we just wanted to make him the idea was to start with a guy who you wanted
really
Gene to scam, and then end up with someone who really didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
And I think that was the origin of that. And
so it was Mark Hansen who came up with all those sugar pills, all those exotic pills that the actor was really able to swallow over and over. At one point, he's like, "How many?" Kevin was like, "How many of these do I have to swallow?"
Transparent. There are all those transparent things. They're kind of science fiction-y.
Yeah.
That's great.
All I can see is those pearls back there that I want to straighten out. Never noticed on the day.
I thought, those you're talking about the things behind them. I kept thinking those were supposed to be like graphic, like martini glasses or some kind of liquor glass. I didn't realize they were pearls until Tom told me what they were.
And this is a real place. This is in Albuquerque. There's the Copper Lounge. You can go there. And
Yet again, that's me behind the wheel, even though you've never seen me.
he showed up that night, and I was like,
I did. I like this one, though. I really took off here. I could see I had some speed going. You can see when I drive off, I'm enjoying driving that thing. Watch this.
There's Pat.
Watch this move here. Whoa, yeah. Exciting, huh?
it was some of your best work.
Thank
for sure.
you. I know, and it's a shame.
He kind of has regrets and maybe kind of not, and whatever. Cancer schmancer.
Everybody's a mark.
And then we're back to color. What's happening? We had to get Mike back in our episodes. It's always great to write a scene where you can insult Jonathan Banks over and over again. So he walks like Frankenstein probed by aliens, and he's just got to sit there and take it.
I just think that, Tom, the structure of this episode is so interesting. The way the flashbacks work. We've never done anything quite like it. We never will again. But because the episode follows two stories and that are intercut, which is something we talked about doing for like a whole chunk of the season, and we really only did it for one episode. But it's the story of Saul's relationship to Walter White. So told exclusively from Saul's point of view, and I think it's just fascinating, and the intercuts get more and more intimately related until that last one, which I think is just genius. And this one is it's fabulous because you see these two guys together again at this point in their relationship.
And I think some people have reached out on Twitter and not complained, but it just like it felt like we skipped over why does Mike work for Saul? Like there's some connective tissue we didn't quite spell out. And I thought we talked about how to even showing Mike getting his PI license and doing all this other legwork and how he becomes a PI and why does he work for Saul. But I feel like it's all, just Gus needed a guy on the inside to be connected in Albuquerque. And here's Saul Goodman. He's got his hands in everything dirty going on. Yeah. He's got the vet's, special code book of all the people throughout town, and Mike is just a man on the inside. And if anything's going on, he can report back to Gus very easily.
That's the next prequel. We'll find out how Mike got his PI license, also where he buys his shoes. I think you can get obsessed with trying to dot every I and cross every T. Yeah. But how important is it to the characters? How it's not part of Jimmy Saul's story.
Mm-hmm.
I like that he was wearing his sunglasses when he came in because he had those on like in the beginning of when he was first on Breaking Bad, right?
Yeah. And
but again, he didn't really wear them much after that.
I've talked to people about that. It's like, why was he wearing the sunglasses? Because I didn't work on the show in season 2 of Breaking Bad. I only joined in season 3. And I was a fan of the show, and I was a fan of Jonathan Banks because I used to watch Wise Guy. And when he came on screen with the sunglasses, he made an impression on me. And he, for whatever reason, he never wore them again. And it was always in my head, it's like, I got to see him in the sunglasses one more time. So I felt like this is sort of the same time period. He'd have the glasses, so let's just put them on.
Smart.
You have to pick the moments when people wear sunglasses because you don't want to deny the audience the actor's eyes unless there's a good reason for it.
And it's probably Marshall's ultimate nightmare too, right?
Kind of is.
It's like that one amazing scene in the Kurosawa movie High and Low where the guy's walking with the mirrored sunglasses on for like a really long time chasing somebody down. I can't figure out how they did it, but I'm sure it was hard.
Wait till you see my movie. My new TV show is called Sunglasses.
Shades.
It's called Shades. It all takes place at Sunglasses Hut. It's a crime show.
Backdrop.
He didn't say anything. The guy's small potatoes.
So Marshall, how much did you go back and look at the original series to light this? Or you just had Steve Lytecki there and he kind of said, this is what we did then.
I actually shot this.
You're right.
On season 5 of Breaking Bad. So I remembered quite a bit.
And then you did it again in season 4 of this series, of course, which was shot on film. So
it was. That's right.
It's not your first go around in this location.
Well, you did do the one in season 4 on film for this.
Probably doesn't make a lot of good life choices.
I have a question for you, Marshall. Sometimes you have a device that you use that creates eye lights, right?
That's correct.
And it's brilliant. And sometimes, you see the little glint in the character's eyes, and sometimes you don't. How do you decide when you're going to do that? Put the glint in the eye.
When I feel like it's that I'm missing seeing that glint. If the face is too dark and I really want to see some life in there, that's the only way I know how to do it. And it took me forever to figure it out. I tried everything. Finally ended up with these little 1x panels, LED panels with a 30-degree grid on them, so you can dial them down to nothing. But it's a long. So tell anybody that'll listen.
My understanding is that there was Henry Fonda, I think, who constantly always had a pen light. Everything he did right there in his eyes all the time.
It's interesting because you don't want to do it all the time. I have to resist the inclination when we're on set to ask you to break it out for every close-up. But because it like everything else, it loses if it's always there, it loses impact.
This is just the epitome of sadness, where he used to have a life with Kim, and now he's sitting here watching exercise videos.
He doesn't even watch old movies as Gene.
He doesn't.
That's the thing that makes me so sad for the guy. He's just watching whatever garbage happens to be on cable. Whereas with Kim, he's watching these great old movies.
Well, the last classic movie you watched, Howard Hamlin got shot in the head.
Yeah,
I think it was. That's right.
No More
it was
Born
the fault.
Yesterday.
It was the fault of the movie. It was the fault of Born Yesterday.
Judy Holliday curse.
It was Judy Holliday's fault. Kim.
So this is always tricky thing to pull off here. Is like you want to lay enough breadcrumbs so that it makes sense when Marion catches Saul in the end, but
Spoiler.
Spoiler alert, but not too many so that it's obvious. I mean, I think some people are going to watch this and guess, oh, she's going to find Saul Goodman on her computer. Of course, Jeff gave her a computer. It's like it's a tricky thing.
Good introduction of the headphones there, which become important in the next episode too.
And we also saw the life alert base station in that scene. She apparently has two of them. This is where you realize how much taller Max is than Bob.
Max is a very tall guy. And Max was in the original episode with Don Harvey in the mall.
That's true. He had no lines, though.
No.
And we got lucky. I mean, it is when you cast, seasons back, you cast somebody to stand there with no lines, and now we come to a scene where he has to really act well, and he does such a great job here.
We knew that we were going to end up bringing him back. So when we cast him, even though he didn't have lines in the episode, we had him.
He told me that.
We had him do a scene, and I was happy about it. I think he worked out great for us. We didn't know what we were going to do with him, though. We didn't know what we were going to do with either of these characters.
Right? Yeah.
We were in this garage a lot.
Yep.
And it's a real location garage.
I felt like it got smaller every time we got there.
How was it for you? What was the most difficult location we've seen in this episode so far?
This is definitely one of them, because there was only limited ways you could get in or out.
Mm-hmm.
And the daylight stuff, we couldn't really put any lights in there because of the look of it, so you blasted everything in from the sides. And when you do that, it causes shadows going every which way.
Which concerns you because...
Greatly.
Because of...
Yeah, because our microphone poles and mics themselves tend to cause shadows. So this box, this small garage, shot on wide lens, looks like it's really big. It's not. Mm-mm. It's a small garage.
When we first started shooting, too, it was still really hot out.
Mm-hmm.
And there was mosquitoes. Remember that? Yeah. I think it was the fake snow that attracted the mosquitoes. There was one right in the middle of my head, and during a shot, I had to stop the take.
We went from very warm to very cold in the course of shooting these episodes.
That was all shot during the day, too, with a big tent around it, too, which didn't help, if I remember correctly.
Here we are on the stage again with the...
I thought this stuff worked out great.
Yeah.
This is impossible. It would be impossible for us to drive around Albuquerque and make it look like a snowy location in the background. So having these, Marshall and I got together over Zoom and like watched all these plates and picked a few that worked out. And
plates being the thing that's projected behind them, that's
played.
pre-existing. That we didn't shoot those.
No, we bought those.
Drivingplates.com.
And here we are with another snowy. This is all that snow is. I don't know if you talked about it on another podcast, but it's all paper. It's just paper they spray everywhere and then vacuum up at the end of the shoot. And it's really incredible.
And I remember we shot this with you and Marshall and Tom, and then you left, and Vince
handed over.
And
This
Paul
is my last
came
day.
Right up, and
my last day of shooting. Yeah, because I handed over to Vince for.
That was so great. So great.
That's the cut.
I think I tried to verbally describe this to people, and then people were like, "What?" And then Marshall shot it on his phone and cut it together. He was like, "Okay, I'm sold." I was like, "Okay." If Marshall gets it, that's all I need.
Again, I watched this with a group of people, and when he walks by this car, it was like the biggest payday.
Oh, I love it.
So great.
The Aztec, I was like, and people noticed. And it was, what a pain to get this shot. It was this big boom and a swing around head. I was like, Marshall, can we get past that fire hydrant? It's like we just had to push it even further. I think did we blow it up and post a little bit too? I can't remember. Both, yeah.
We had the crane on track.
It was Techno crane, right?
Yeah, and trying to avoid its reflection in the cars, and oh boy.
And then having a shadow on the school door and the shadow here on this class was, remember I had the shot lined up and Marshall was like, let's switch sides, come over here because you see the shadow better.
What an episode.
There's a man with
what an episode.
Judgment.
And
so good.
Pat, I gotta say, you look so different. We're sitting next to each other right now. You look so unlike your character. And I don't think it's just the perm. The perm did something, but you just don't. It's interesting. You are such a fine performer. You really are just look completely different from Jeff.
It's posture and all those things.
So glad to get a chance to work with you, man.
My pleasure. A dream for me to work on the show.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. This one to remember.